So today we will see some other aspects which are very important. So these things you very well know from childhood, from the school standards also you started studying what is greenhouse effect, what is global warming. I think there is no necessity for me to give a definition. What is greenhouse effect? Can anyone explain me in a layman language? What is greenhouse effect? Can anyone explain me in a layman language, like what is greenhouse effect? In a very simple terms. See, greenhouse gases acting as a belt, they will trap bit amount of radiation which is radiating from the earth's surface, and it makes nights to be warmer rather than to be cooler. Otherwise, in the day section, if we have 40 degrees centigrade, then in the nights after the radiation we should have negative temperatures, but that negative temperatures are not being projected. So why? Because the greenhouse gases are trapping this. Then why we are reading this greenhouse effect and the concept of global warming is by human intervention the greenhouse gases are being increasing its percentages. Example, carbon dioxide, methane, the rest of the greenhouse gases. So those greenhouse gases which are increasing in its percentages are trapping more and more heat. So those greenhouse gases trapping more and more heat are resulting further into global warming. Generally, greenhouse effect is very perfect scenario. We have read it every time in a negative sense. It is not a negative aspect, but more and more greenhouse effect will result into global warming. So here what are the aspects which you have to remember is, just 1 minute. So what are the greenhouse gases which are mostly involved? Clear, carbon dioxide. So how carbon dioxide enters into the atmosphere? Everyone know it enters into the atmosphere by burning of fossil fuels and deforestation, because through deforestation itself the amount of carbon sinks would be reduced. Clear. So chlorofluorocarbons, they are used in refrigerator solvents, insulation foams, aeropropellants, industrial and commercial uses. They would be using chlorofluorocarbons. They are also responsible for greenhouse effect. And methane, like growing paddy, excreta of animal and other livestock, terminates like burning of fossil fuels, wood, landfills, wetland, etc. All these aspects would be releasing methane into the atmosphere. Apart from this, nitrogen oxides, burning of fossil fuels, fertilizers, burning of wood and crop residue will result into nitrogen oxides. Apart from that, if you see the carbon monoxide, it is like also one of the greenhouse gases which is generally released into the atmosphere by iron ore smelting, burning of fossil fuels, burning of e-waste. Clear? So try to remember them. So if you want to go deeper into what carbon dioxide would be doing, as everyone know, carbon dioxide would be acting as transparent for the incoming solar radiation, and they would be acting as the opaque for radiation. So as the insulation is trying to reach onto that surface, carbon dioxide tends to act as transparent. But when the radiation long waves would be moving away from the earth's surface, they tend to block, they tend to trap, absorb the radiation by making a warmer atmospheric surfaces. Every time do remember, atmosphere is rather heated and cooled from the bottom rather than from the top. Atmosphere is never heated from the top, rather atmosphere is heated from the below. Done. That would be giving us temperature. So you know, ozone is also one of the important greenhouse gases, but it is very small proportions at the surface. Maximum ozone which is present, that is present near to the stratosphere. So this is also one of the greenhouse gases. So water vapor, many people don't know that water vapor is a greenhouse gas. So water vapor itself is also a greenhouse gas which will trap the incoming solar radiation and which will also trap the outgoing terrestrial radiation. Do remember this point. It absorbs both the insolation and terrestrial radiation. Generally water vapor, if you see, the amount of water vapor where it would be high, the amount of heat, the trapping would be very much high. So generally, as we know, water vapor is high in the regions where we have high rates of evaporation. Within the tropics we would be having high rates of evaporation. So hence, while moving from equators towards the polar region, the water vapor percentage within the atmosphere tends to reduce completely. Done. So water vapor, it is one of the most important gases where it absorbs both incoming and outgoing terrestrial radiation. Please put a star mark over here and remember. So methane, as I have said, it is one of the most important greenhouse gases after the carbon dioxide. It is produced from the decomposition of animal waste and biological matter. Along with that, this particular methane is released into the atmosphere during the growth of paddy also. Done. So nitrous oxide, as everyone know, it is greenhouse gases. So nitrous oxide emissions cause global cooling through the formation of OH radicals that destroy methane molecules, countering the effect of greenhouse gases. But in general, you have to understand the difference between nitrous oxide and nitric oxide and nitrogen oxide. These three are different. Nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gases. Nitric oxide and nitrogen oxide, they are not greenhouse gases. They act as a counterpart for those greenhouse gases which are present in the atmosphere. Done. So if you see carbon monoxide, it is also a short-lived greenhouse gas. It is less dense than air. So this is also one of the most important aspects. So how it would be developed whenever there would be chemical reactions which happen between the methane and tropospheric ozone. Through chemical reactions and other atmospheric components, this particular carbon monoxide would be developed. In a simpler terms, whenever oxygen levels are not that high, then carbon dioxide doesn't form. That results into formation of carbon monoxide. So in those regions where oxygen levels are limited, in those regions carbon monoxide would be released into the atmosphere. So this is also one of the most important aspect which you have to remember related with greenhouse gases. And the most important one, however, you know about chlorofluorocarbons. They are also responsible for the ozone depletion and they also come under the category of greenhouse effect. So chlorofluorocarbons, they were phased out via the Montreal Protocol. So what is Montreal Protocol? Moving further, we would be seeing what is the importance of Montreal Protocol. So Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol, these were the two such kind of first international conventions and protocols which talked about ozone depleting substances and reduction of ozone depleting substances. Montreal Protocol, it itself says the member parties who have signed this Montreal Protocol, they have made an agreement that they have to reduce the ozone depleting substances so as to protect the ozone layer which is present in the stratosphere. Clear? So hydrofluorocarbons, which are used as refrigerators, aerosol propellants, solvents and fire retardants, these are also important. Clear? These are also other potent greenhouse gases with long atmospheric lifetimes. So these hydrofluorocarbons are most impacted aspects. Carbon monoxide kind of structures, they doesn't have much impact, creating more and more greenhouse effect. But these kind of chlorofluorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons which have high atmospheric lifetimes, they would be having huge impact which generally would be developed. Clear? On the greenhouse effects. Next, if you see perfluorocarbons, they are compounds produced by the byproducts in aluminium production and manufacturing of semiconductors. Recently, this has also come in newspaper. If you see somewhere a 20-25 day back in the Hindu newspaper, more and more perfluorocarbons are being acting as an important agent of greenhouse effect. This was an article which has come in the Hindu newspaper. Once, if you could go through them, if you have already gone through them, it is good. Otherwise, just drop perfluorocarbon space UPSC space the Hindu. You will get that particular article. Just 20 to 25 days back, we had this carbons issue in the news. Hence, there are high chances that some or the other question would be raised on perfluorocarbons. Hence, they are being the byproducts in the aluminium preparation. When it happens in aluminium smelting industries, we would be having them as the byproducts. So very, very important. Like hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons generally have longer atmospheric lifetimes and high global warming potential is present. That's why they have given an article, global warming through perfluorocarbons. This was the article, some article heading was in this way. So there are high chances, if it has appeared in the contemporary aspect, there might be some certain question related with this particular aspect in 2021 UPSC preliminary examination which is going to happen. Next, sulfur hexafluoride. It is also a greenhouse gas. It is used in magnesium processing and semiconductor manufacturing, as well as a tracer gas for leak detection. So this sulfur hexafluoride is also very, very important. So you only know about carbon dioxide and methane as greenhouse gases, but all these are greenhouse gases which you have to remember. It is used in electrical transmission equipment, including the circuit breakers also. So these are very, very important. Please try to remember them as much as you can. So as many gases, as many perfluorocarbons, as many sulfur hexafluorides you can remember as much as possible. Next, black carbon or soot. Clear, it is a solid particle or an aerosol that contributes to the warming of atmosphere. Black carbon, which is commonly called as soot, we generally use this term called as soot particles present in the atmosphere, and because of these soot particles present in the atmosphere, as it is acting as a pollutant matter in Delhi like cities, we would be experiencing high amount of pollution rates. So soot present in the atmosphere will disturb entire atmosphere, and the pollution levels, air quality index of that particular region would be completely degraded. Done. Soot is a form of particulate air pollutant produced from incomplete combustion. So black carbon warms the earth by absorbing heat in the atmosphere and by reducing the albedo. Albedo is nothing but the reflective capacity. Hope you know albedo is a geographical term which literally means diffuse reflection. So the reflection capacity, when it would be reduced, amount of absorption would be increased. When amount of absorption would be increased, the amount of temperature rate tends to increase. Hence this black carbon or soot which are present in the atmosphere as solid particles, they tend to absorb more and more heat, resulting into formation of global warming. And this black carbon or soot are resultant of incomplete combustion which generally happens. So please do remember this point. It is the strongest absorber of sunlight and heat, and heats the air directly without any intervention. That is the most important aspect. It is an air pollutant which disturbs the air. Along with that, it is also an agent which generally tends to create highest amount of greenhouse effects, resulting into global warming. Incomplete combustion means incomplete burning of any fuel. It is called as incomplete combustion. So if any fuel is unburnt, if it is incompletely burnt, then it is called as incomplete combustion. So if there is incomplete burning, then we would be having this black carbon or soot released into the atmosphere. Is this clear, ma'am? Next, brown carbon. It is ubiquitous and unidentified compound of organic aerosol. Biomass burning, that is possibly domestic wood burning, is shown to be the major source of brown carbon. In generally villages like where they use the wood as fuel to have mostly which is used in the kitchen or domestic work, through this particular brown carbon is released in the atmosphere. It is generally referred for greenhouse gases, and black carbon for particles resulting from impure combustion such as soot and dust. Clear? So this brown carbon is generally referred to as greenhouse gas. Black carbon, it is not directly a greenhouse gas because it is a solid particle which tends to increase the greenhouse effect. Done. So among greenhouse gases, only water vapor has the ability to absorb both incoming and outgoing radiation. Apart from that, rest of the greenhouse gases, they can only trap the heat which is released from the process of radiation. Clear? So please try to remember them. Next, if you see the greenhouse protocols and all, so the value chains towards the progress towards the climatic goals, there are many protocols which have been involved to reduce these greenhouse effects. Clear? So every time whenever you see those greenhouse protocols, try to remember them. The international conventions which generally happens. Moving further, we would be seeing about the Paris Climate Summit. So in that you will be understanding what is the major goal of Paris Climate Summit. Done. So what are the major impacts? As you know, this is not a new thing to you. So you might have read this particular impacts of global warming earlier also, like melting of ice caps in the polar regions, which increases the sea level changes. Clear? Whereby extreme climate events like floods, sudden cloud burst, more cyclonic activities would be coming into picture, and environmental degradation would happen obviously. So burning of forest, Amazon forest have been burnt. Bushfires in the Australians are the resultants of this global warming. Risk of health related issues, obviously there would be high health hazard issues which would be resulting because of this global warming, and high amount of biodiversity loss, that is flora and fauna hugely would be disturbed. So deterioration of carbon sinks, like so carbon sinks, water, oceans would be acting as a carbon sinks, forestry would be acting as a carbon sinks. So deterioration of these particular carbon sinks would help to increase the carbon in the atmosphere. That will hence result into again formation of greenhouse effect, and again increase of greenhouse effect again will result into the process of global warming. Done. So moving further, we will also see some other aspects which are involved as ozone depleting substances. So there are many gases in greenhouse gases. Please try to by heart them as much as you can. If direct question comes, you should not miss. If direct question comes like which of the following are the resultants, causes of greenhouse gases. So like which of the following are causes of greenhouse effect. If they ask in this way, that would be the most possible or probable direct question which UPSC would be asking. So in such kind of questions, you have to manage and dig the answer at any cost. So these are ozone depleting substances. Do remember them. Chlorofluorocarbons, as we have already discussed during the greenhouse gases, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, hydrobromofluorocarbons, halogens which are used in fire extinguishers, methyl bromide used as fumigant. Fumigation is method of pest control by suffocating pest with the poison. And carbon tetrachloride, it is also one of the ozone depleting substances. Methyl chloroform, it is also one of the most important ozone depleting substances. So, but the top three are the most important basic common aspects which generally deplete the ozone. Done. So this is highly important, please try to remember them. Ozone depleting substances. So chlorofluorocarbons, as we have already discussed in the greenhouse gases, they are widely used in refrigerators. They are also considered as greenhouse gases that causes the climate change. There are still chlorofluorocarbons left in older industrial air conditioning and refrigeration systems. As we can see in many of the government offices also, we have this old refrigeration and conditioning system which tends to have this chlorofluorocarbons and release of chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere. So this is one ozone depleting substance, and one more ozone depleting substance is hydrochlorofluorocarbon, which have been used as substitute for chlorofluorocarbons. They do less damage when compared to the chlorofluorocarbons to the ozone layer, but they would be doing. Hydrochlorofluorocarbons would also, they will also damage the ozone layer, but as much as damage which chlorofluorocarbons are creating, that much damage it doesn't create in general. So do remember the rest. If you see, already I mentioned the Vienna Convention, right? So Vienna Convention for the protection of ozone layer. If you see, no question was framed on this particular Vienna Convention or Montreal Protocol until now. So there was an indirect question on Montreal Protocol, but there was no particular question related with the Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol. So you can expect a question from Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol. If you see, the Vienna Convention for the protection of ozone layer, first it was agreed as a convention during 1985. Clear? So it established global monitoring and reporting on ozone depletion, and it also created a framework for the development of protocols for taking more binding actions on those nations. Clear? Just 1 minute. So binding actions to be taken on those regions which there are more amount of binding actions which are present. Those binding actions have been taken upon later on. So first, this Vienna Convention which is present, that particular Vienna Convention has started as an initiation or has been started as a base. Later on, many protocols have come to protect this particular ozone layer. And if you see in that particular regard, Montreal Protocol, which was created as a binding action, and this particular protocol was created on that basis that substances that deplete the ozone layer, so to keep the binding action on those particular countries which are releasing the ozone depleting substances, this protocol came into picture. So this Montreal Protocol came under Vienna Convention. Do remember this point. So they will give a direct question. They will give a direct question like, consider the following statements related with Montreal Protocol. Montreal Protocol was framed under Vienna Convention. Yes, it is absolutely true. And it was agreed, this particular Montreal Protocol was agreed in the year 1987. It facilitates global cooperation in reversing the rapid decline in the atmospheric concentration of ozone. Under this protocol, the countries who have become the member parties of protocol agreed to phase out the production and consumption of certain chemicals that generally deplete the particular ozone. So those aspects which we have seen in this particular, like ozone depleting substances like methyl bromide, like halogens, carbon tetrachloride, methyl chloroform. So these kind of chemical substances, they said that they would be slowly reducing the consumption and production of those chemical substances which generally deplete the ozone, and slowly in a phase manner India also started depleting, phasing out of the production and consumption of certain chemicals that generally deplete the ozone. So Vienna Convention and its Montreal Protocol are the first and only global environment treaties to achieve universal ratification with 197 parties. Clear? So no such kind of convention or protocol is there where 197 entire parties have ratified it. Clear? As a result of international agreement, the ozone hole in Antarctica is slowly recovering, and ozone depletion which got created in the Antarctica zone, which we call it as Antarctica hole, that slowly started recovering by its own. Done. So apart from that, in 2016 what has happened is there was an amendment which was created towards this particular protocol, that was called as Kigali Amendment. Do remember this. This is also very important. So Kigali is the capital city of Rwanda. So in the 28th meeting of parties in 2016, Montreal Protocol negotiators from 197 nations have signed an agreement to amend the Montreal Protocol in Kigali. That would be called as Kigali Amendment towards this particular Montreal Protocol. So the parties are expected to reduce the manufacture and use of hydrofluorocarbons by roughly 80 to 85% from their respective baselines till 2045. So according to the Kigali Amendment, parties have accepted that they would be reducing the phase out of this particular hydrofluorocarbons by roughly 80 to 85%. In between 80 to 85%, they would be phasing out manufacturing and consumption by 2045. So that is a Kigali Amendment. This phase down is expected to arrest the global average temperature rise up by 0.5 degrees centigrade by 2100. By the end of this century, as when we reduce them until by 2045, the temperature rise of 0.5 degrees centigrade can be arrested, can be reduced. So by the base levels we can't reduce the temperature, but the increase we can stop. We can keep the constant rates of temperatures. Clear? So it is a legally binding agreement. Please do remember this, between the signature parties with non-compliance measures. So between the signature parties, what happens is it is legally binding agreement that they have to do it. They have to obey the rules which were given by the Kigali Amendment. So it came into effect in the 1st January 2019. So from then, this was in news related with Montreal Protocol Kigali Amendment. No such kind of question was asked until now. There are chances post 2 years they might ask this question in 2021 as well. Done. Very, very important. Please do remember that. India had agreed on lenient schedule as it consumes only 3% of HFCs as compared to the other nations like USA and China, which consumes 37 to 25. But in India, the consumption of HFCs is very much less. Clear? So if you see, hydrofluorocarbons are used since as an alternative to CFCs and HCFCs, as I have said. So these HFCs do not contribute to ozone depletion. However, they are potent greenhouse gases with high global warming potential. So next we have certain international organizations, as we have seen the IUCN Red List, which was an NGO. We have seen the Ramsar Convention. We will see the Convention on Biodiversity, and we will see other forums which are very much important. In that first such kind of conference which has happened, clear, that is United Nations. Do remember this, it is mother of all the conferences. United Nations Conference on Human Environment, which happened in 1972. So the United Nations Conference on Human Environment was first held in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972. So this particular conference which was happened, it marked the emergence of international environment law, and in that we had Stockholm Declaration also. I'll show what is Stockholm Declaration, what happened over there. So it is also known as Declaration on the Human Environment. So it set out the principles for various international environmental issues, natural resource management, pollution prevention, relation between the environment and development. So this declaration in its own first kind, it is very, very important. Do remember Stockholm Declaration. Here what happens is, they might give you the trace out order of different declarations. They might give you any 4 important events which happened in the environmental international global platform past since the last 30-40 years, and they might ask you to arrange them from first happened to last happened, like which of the following events happened in a sequence. So they might give you this particular aspect to be taken upon in the prelims, so you have to be prepared. So Stockholm Declaration happened in 1972. So this United Nations Environment Program, it is an agency of United Nations. It coordinates with the UN's environmental activities. So it was founded as a resultant of United Nations Conference on Environment of 1972. So after that particular United Nations Conference on Environment 1992, which happened 1972, so this particular United Nations Environment Program has been started. So this United Nations Environment established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is generally called as IPCC. So that particular United Nations Environment Program, it has established one intergovernmental panel channel on climate change, whereby different intergovernments would be coming and discussing the climate change issues under this particular IPCC platform. So United Nations Environment is also one of the several implementing agencies for global environment facilities and multilateral fund for implementation of the Montreal Protocol. So this United Nations Environment Program is also implementing some other forums like global environment facilities, and also it is implementing the multilateral funds for this Montreal Protocol, which was signed Clear, it is also a member of United Nations Development Group as well. So this United Nations Environment Program has registered several successes, such as 1987 Montreal Protocol has been came under United Nations Environment Program itself, and later on 2002 Minamata Convention, a treaty to limit toxic mercury. This was also one of the success which happened under United Nations Environment Program. So now, on the basis of United Nations Environment Program, in the year 1988, when IPCC was formed, this IPCC started, it is a scientific body which started looking upon the climate change issues. So IPCC is a scientific intergovernmental body under the auspices of United Nations, which was started by United Nations Environment Program in 1988. It was first established in 1998 by United Nations organizations, the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Program. Clear? So do remember this particular point. So it was established in 1988 mainly under the focus of United Nations Environment Program and also with the help of the World Meteorological Organization also. So IPCC produces the report to support the UNFCCC. What is UNFCCC? United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change. So what all the protocols have to be made? What all the conventions have to be made? They would be made under UNFCCC, which would be supported by IPCC, which was formed by United Nations by help of WMO, World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Environment Program. Please remember the social hierarchies of these particular things. Clear? IPCC report, which generally would be provided, it covers all the relevant information to understand the risk of human induced climate change, its potential impacts and options for adaptation. So generally IPCC doesn't carry its own research, or it doesn't go to different places and it doesn't do research. Thousands of scientists across the world voluntarily, they contribute the information to the IPCC on voluntary basis. So different scientists, they contribute the information to the IPCC, and on that basis of information IPCC suggests the UNFCCC to go and put such kind of conventions like Paris Climate Summit or any other summit, and to declare that. And how many people would be ratifying it? If more than half would be ratifying it, then it would be binding upon those particular nations. So each and every nation who are interested in those conventions and protocols which are made under UNFCCC, they can give a ratification to that. Clear? So we will see the UNFCCC later on, but before that you will see conservation of migratory species. It is called as CMF. So the Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. Clear? So when the migratory species happen, so to protect those particular migratory species, this particular convention has been taken upon. It is also called as Bonn Convention. Do remember this. Bonn Convention refers to, they might ask this direct question, which of the following refers to Bonn Convention? Conservation of migratory species refers to Bonn Convention, whereby this Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, it is an international treaty concluded under the aegis of United Nations Environment Program again. Under United Nations Environment Program, what all has commenced? Until now, IPCC was commenced, Montreal Protocol funding has happened. Later on, under IPCC, UNFCCC is working, and the second organization which was present, second convention, that is Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species. Clear? So the convention was signed in 1979, Bonn, Germany, and it entered into force in 1983. So Global Environment Facility also serves as financial mechanisms for the following conventions, whereby this environmental facility which would be present, it would be giving the financial mechanisms to CBD, that is Convention on Biodiversity, UNFCCC, UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, and along with that Stockholm Convention, which we have discussed, earlier, that was different. This Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants is different, and Minamata Convention on Mercury. So all these important conventions which are present, they would just a minute, they would get their financial mechanisms from this global environmental facility. So now this is very, very important. After 1972, after 20 years of United Nations Environment Program on Human Environment, United Nations Conference on Human Environment, which happened in 1972. Post that, when United Nations Environment Program was started, post then when IPCC was created, when UNFCCC was created. So this particular aspect exactly after 20 years has come into picture. That is Mother Earth Summit or Rio de Janeiro Summit, which happened in Brazil in 1992. It is nothing but United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. Until now, if you see, only United Nations Environment Program was present. But if you see, in 1992, along with the protection of environment, the conference have given a key term called as development. United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. So this Earth Summit 1992, it is also called as Mother Earth Summit, succeeded in raising public awareness of the need to integrate environment and development. Earlier IPCC or Montreal Protocols or the United Nations Environment Program could not succeed to reach or to outreach into the deeper aspects of the people to have a notion to protect the environment. But this particular summit, it started integrating and creating public awareness among interrelation with environment and development. Environment development is necessary, but not at the cost of environment. Then sustainable development, later on sustainable development kind of aspects come into picture. As a follow-up, if you see, the World Summit which happened 10 years later, Rio 10, we generally call it as Rio 10, which focused upon sustainable development, was held in 2012, which was held in 2012 in Johannesburg, South Africa. It has focused, in 1992 they have spoken related with environment and development, and after 10 years, as a follow-up, when they have come into picture, they have took up a keyword that was called as sustainable development. And in 2012, as a follow-up again, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development was held in Rio and is commonly called as Rio 20 or Rio Earth Summit 2012. So again, back then in 2012 also, again this summit was held, where the Earth Summit which has happened, that has resulted into following documents. Clear, which were important outcomes of that particular Mother Earth Summit. If you see, one is Rio Declaration, where principles intended to guide countries in future sustainable development. This is point number 1. Point number 2, Agenda 21. So after that Earth Summit which has happened, these three are the outcomes, so you have to remember them. So non-binding action plan for United Nations with regard to sustainable development, this was Agenda 21 which was declared. And forest principles, like non-legally binding document on conservation and sustainable development of all types of forest. So protecting the forest which are non-legally binding, which are non-binding. In Agenda 21 also sustainable development aspects were non-binding. In Rio Declaration also, they have asked about the binding proposals. They just said that we have to focus upon the future sustainable development, that's it. They have never focused upon binding and non-binding aspects. So landmark agreements which happened later on. So an important achievement of summit was agreement on climate change convention, which in turn led to Kyoto Protocol and Paris Climate Summit. So important legally binding agreements under the Rio Convention were opened for signature. One was CBD, one was UNCCD. So earlier Agenda 21, Rio Declaration, forest principles, they were not binding upon. They were just using the terms called as sustainable development, protection of all kinds of forest, sustainably using the resources. But apart from that, in this particular Rio action, two such kind of aspects were there, which were binding agreements on the parties. So those two agreements which were present, that was Convention on Biodiversity and United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. These two are highly important. Please try to focus upon them. Sorry. If you see Agenda 21, as I have said, Agenda 21 is a non-binding action plan related to United Nations for Sustainable Development. It was an outcome of 1992 Earth Summit. The number 21 refers to the agenda for 21st century. Aim is to have or achieve global sustainable development. Since 2015, sustainable development goals are included in Agenda 2030. Do remember this point. So whenever they will ask you some question related with, consider the following statements related with the Agenda 21. So it was an outcome of Earth Summit 1992. They will give the options, clear. So or they will be giving the number 21 in Agenda 21 refers to 21 member parties who have ratified it, 21 member countries, or 21st century. So such kind of optional questions they would be giving. So in that you have to be very much perfect. So if you see one binding legally agreement which was prepared, that was United Nations Convention to combat desertification, because desertification was increasing continuously. Hence the convention stemmed from a direct recommendation of Rio's conference on Agenda 21 in 1994, which was opened, and it is internationally legally binding framework. So they might ask you this question also: which of the following under the United Nations environment programs are legally binding? So in that CBD comes into picture, and United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification comes into picture. Clear? So in 2006, the year 2006 was declared as International Years for Deserts and Desertification. So stopping the desertification is also one of the most important aspects, because increasing desertification will lead to aridity of major regions. As the population explosion or expansion is happening, we need to have more greenery, more available natural resources of land, which we can achieve through sustainable development. With these increasing desertification or with these increasing deserts, we can't have sustainability of natural resources. Done. So do remember, this is legally binding agreement, and there are certain Rio summits. If you see the Rio 5, which happened in 1997, the UN General Assembly held a special session to appraise the status of Agenda 21, that is Rio 5. So this is not that important. Rio 10 is very much important, because here sustainable development word has come into picture, which happened in Johannesburg in 2002. So Rio 10 affirmed the UN commitment to Agenda 21 again, alongside of Millennium Development Goals. So do remember Johannesburg Declaration. Whenever Johannesburg Declaration comes into picture, the keyword which comes into picture is sustainable development. Done. So Rio 20 is also important. It is also called as United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. So it is a 20-year follow-up to the Earth Summit happened in 1992, and 10-year follow-up which happened in Earth Summit in 2002. So it is also known as Rio 12 or Earth Summit 2012. It was hosted in Rio de Janeiro again in 2012. It reaffirmed the commitment of Agenda 21 to have the sustainable development aspects to be achieved by all the member nations, which is not legally binding. Agenda 21 is not legally binding. It is third international conference on sustainable development. Please do remember this particular statements. Do remember Rio 10, Rio 20 are highly important. So apart from that, if you see in a summarized way, 1992 it happened in Rio de Janeiro, which was United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. In 2002 in Johannesburg, the word called as sustainable development has came into picture. And Earth Summit 2012, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development again has happened as a follow-up or as a checkup. So these three summits are most important for you: Rio, Rio 10, Rio 20. And in 2022 we will have Rio 30. Clear? So that would also become very much important if you are writing in 2022. So Convention on Biodiversity is also legally binding, as I have said, right? So one is United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, that is one particular convention which is legally binding, and CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity or Biodiversity, is also one of the legally binding agreements which are present. So biodiversity conservation is collective responsibility of all the nations. Clear? So this biodiversity is a step, this CBD is a step towards the protection of biodiversity with the involvement of entire world. So it is legally binding. It is a multilateral treaty which was opened for the signature in the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro 1992 itself, but it came into effect in 1993. So to protection of biodiversity is also very important. Hence a convention was opened upon in 1992. So to be signed, whereby in 1993 it has came into effect. So conservation on biodiversity, these three are the objectives if you see related with the CBD. So to protect the biodiversity, sustainable use of its particular biodiversity components, fair and equitable share of benefits rising from the genetic resources which we generally take from the biodiversities. These were the three major ambitions which were created under the Convention on Biodiversity. Done. So it is often a key document regarding sustainable development. The convention is legally binding, as I have said. So countries that join it are obliged to implement its provision. 195 UN states and the European Union are parties to this convention. All UN member states with the exception of United States have ratified the treaty except the United States of America. It did not ratify the treaty yet. So we have certain protocols which are very much important. That is Cartagena Protocol. Like CBD covers the rapidly expanding field of biotechnology through its Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. This particular protocol, it addresses technology development and transfer, benefit sharing and biosafety issues which are present. So this Cartagena Protocol is very important on biosafety. So if any question would be coming on Cartagena Protocol, it would be on the biosafety itself. Once go through these particular lines which are given in the protocol. In the similar way we have Nagoya Protocol. It is the second protocol to the CBD. The first happened in 2000, that is Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. It is 2010 supplementary agreement to 1992 Convention on CBD itself. But Nagoya Protocol is about access to genetic resources and fair and equitable sharing of benefits rising from their utilization. So whenever genetic resources under the biodiversity is used, the fair and equitable share of all these resources have to happen. That is what the Nagoya Protocol is. So it is one of the three objectives which are present by the CBD. Already I have said about the three objectives, right? So where are they? So see, in this fair and equitable sharing of benefits rising from the genetic resources, that was declared in this particular Nagoya Protocol. Done. So next organization which is important, that is UNFCCC. Genetic resources means those resources which are available from the flora and fauna of different regions. Like for example, if any benefit we are getting because of presence of particular flora over there, so that is a genetic resource. Clear? So any resource which we get from the flora and fauna, that is a genetic resource. So this is also one of the most important organizations under which Paris Climate Summit has happened. So if you see UNFCCC, very important. From here also there are chances that questions would be coming. So internationally environmental treaty that came into existence of the UN. So UNFCCC is negotiated at the Earth Summit 1992 and signed in 1992 in New York City. As of March 2019, later on we don't have data. UNFCCC has 197 parties, and up to 2020 February also the parties were same, and after 2020 you know what has happened. Clear? So role, if you see just 1 minute. Role, if you see, UNFCCC provides a framework for negotiating specific international treaties called as protocols. Clear? And it stabilizes. What is the main objective? If you see, it stabilizes the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous consequences. So those member countries which would be under United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change, they have to accept the aspects which are present under this. So treaty is considered legally non-binding, but as a morality, as a part of environmental sustainability, every country which would be part, they generally would be signing it, except such persons like our Donald Trump, who is a dictator. He doesn't sign this Paris Climate Summit which has happened. So there would be conference of parties under this UNFCCC, which is a decision making body. All states that are parties to the convention represent the COP. So every member nations would be attending this particular conference of party meetings. So in such a way, the first party meeting was held in Berlin, Germany in March 1995. The parties to the convention have met annually since 1995, and in 1997 the Kyoto Protocol, the third conference of meeting which was happened, that was concluded and established legally binding obligations for developed countries to reduce their greenhouse gases. Very, very important. The Kyoto Protocol, highly important. Please do remember them. So they are very, very important. And if you see, the COP21 happened in Paris 2015, where Paris Climate Summit has happened. 22 happened in Marrakesh in the Morocco. 23 in Bonn, Germany. 24 in Katowice, Poland. 25 in Santiago, Chile, near November-December 2019. After this, COP26 did not happen until now. So it would be happening in 2021, I hope. There are chances that we may have COP26 which happened in 2021, and 2020, as everyone knows, it is a 0 year. So if you see the Kyoto Protocol, it was adopted in Kyoto, Japan in the third party conference meeting. So India ratified this Kyoto Protocol after 7 years in 2002, whereby Kyoto Protocol came into force in February 2005, when all the member parties have signed. Right now we have 192 parties. USA never ratified Kyoto Protocol. Neither they ratified Kyoto Protocol, neither they ratified Paris Climate Summit also. Clear? So Canada, after ratifying, it has withdrawn from it from 2012. The main goal is to fight global warming by reducing greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climatic system. So the main aim of Kyoto Protocol is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. That's it. That is the major role of this particular Kyoto Protocol. So if you see the main emission targets which are included in Kyoto Protocol, it is carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, sulfur hexafluoride, hydrofluorocarbons and perfluorocarbons. These are the main emission targets which are included in this particular greenhouse gases. Done. So next, if you see in the COP21 meeting, the Paris Climate Summit which has happened, so no agreement was reached in Lima. All agreements and decisions were reserved for Paris Climate Summit in 2015. So in Lima 2014 we had that conference of party meeting, so whereby Paris Climate Summit is one of the most important environmental conferences because of INDC commitments made by the major polluters. Clear? The conference objective is to achieve a legal binding and universally agreement on climate to be signed in 2015 and implemented by 2020. If you see what was actually there in Paris Agreement, where member nations and signatories they have ratified. So the conference negotiated the Paris Agreement, a global agreement on reduction of climate change. Actually it entered into force in November 2016, whereby after ratification has happened by 55 countries, clear, whereby countries that account for at least 55% of the global emissions had been met. Signatories were 195 as of 2019. 180 plus countries have ratified. India has signed and ratified in 2016 itself. The main aim of Paris Climate Summit is to reduce the climate change. Done. So the expected key result when the Paris Climate Summit has happened, the goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, which was compared with the pre-industrial levels. Clear? So the agreement calls for zero net anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions to be reached during the second half of the 21st century. The main aim is to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees centigrade by the end of this particular century. So let it be the ozone depletion protocols, let it be any protocols, the main aim is to reduce the climate change global warming impacts. Clear? So apart from that, we have few more aspects. So as the time has run out, what you do is once go through these air pollutions. Clear? I have classified different air pollutants like primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. Once you go through in this particular PPTs, if you get any doubt, just like I have just given what is fly ash, what is a primary pollutant, what is a secondary pollutant. So you have fly ash, what is its composition I have given, what are its uses, I have given about lead, nanoparticles, effects, Asian brown clouds impact I have given, carbon monoxide. So in this way I have given few environmental pollution aspects. Once you please go through it, if you find any doubt, please let me know through a WhatsApp message. So it is just nothing like a factual information which you have to go. And at the last I have also mentioned about air quality index also, which was a question in 2016 and 17. So there is probability that again question would be coming up in 2021. So once you go through this particular 10 to 15 next slides of air pollution, if you get any doubts, please let me know. So there you have entire factual informations which are involved over there. Done. So if you have any doubts, get on through me with the WhatsApp. Hope you have understood this. Thank you for watching this. Have an awesome day. Jai Hind.